Like in general?
Yeah, just the idea of poking your...
The United Nations Command is a multinational coalition force which monitors the Korean armistice and helps maintain regional stability in Northeast Asia. The United Nations Command Security Battalion was established in the spring of 1952, originally consisting of 5 officers and 10 enlisted men. We reached our peak strength near the end of the Korean War with over 1,900 soldiers assigned. Now, to place your tour into better context, I will now briefly review the political history of the Korean Peninsula. Now, in the final days of prior to World War II, the Japanese had colonized the Korean Peninsula. Now, in the final days of World War II, the Soviet Union accepted the surrender of the Japanese north of the 38th parallel, while the United States accepted the surrender of the Japanese in the south. Now, 38th parallel was never meant to be a political boundary nor division of country. It was merely established to designate areas of responsibility. So, in May of 1948, elections were held in the south, and this man, Dr. Syngman Rhee, was elected the first president of the Republic of Korea. In September of that same year, the Soviet Union appointed Kim Il-sung to be the first premier of communist North Korea. He reigned for approximately 46 years until his death in July of 1994. His eldest son, Kim Jong-il, then succeeded him in power. This was the first father-to-son succession of power to ever take place in a communist country. He reigned for approximately 17 years until his death in December of 2011. Kim Jong-il's youngest son, Kim Jong-un, then succeeded him in power. This marks the 3rd generation of the family's rule over North Korea. Despite negotiations and attempts to reunify the Korean Peninsula, on June 25, 1950, North Korea launched a massive surprise attack. The ensuing war lasted over 3 years and cost over 2 million people their lives. Within 1 month of the attack, North Korean forces had captured most of the Korean Peninsula. Now, coalition forces were finally able to stop the North Korean advance near the city of Busan. Now, over the next 4 months, the United Nations Command conducted the Incheon landing, pushing the North Korean forces back to the Yalu River, the border between North Korea and China, at which point the Chinese army entered the war and aided the North Koreans in their war effort. The war began to stabilize around the 38th parallel. Although a permanent settlement had not yet been reached, on July 27, 1953, military commanders from the United Nations Command, the Korean People's Army, and the Chinese People's Volunteers signed an armistice or ceasefire agreement to end all fighting. This agreement is still in effect today. The MDL between North and South Korea has remained relatively the same ever since. Now, this white dotted line represents the Military Demarcation Line, or MDL. Under provisions of the armistice, military commanders were ordered to pull the troops back 2,000 meters from the last point of hostile contact, thus creating a 4-kilometer wide, 241-kilometer long demilitarized zone, or DMZ. Now, note the location of Seoul in its relationship to the MDL. Here at Camp Boniface, we are just 400 meters from the southern boundary of the DMZ and 2.4 kilometers from the MDL itself. Now, this is the city of Kaesong. It was the site of the original armistice talks prior to being moved to the Panmunjom, or what we call the Joint Security Area. Although the DMZ has become one of the most militarized locations in the world, the MDL itself has no fortifications. It is simply a series of 1,292 black and yellow panel markers that run from coast to coast and are spaced at 100 to 200 meter intervals. Now, on the southern side, these signs are labeled in Hangul or Korean at the top and English at the bottom. While on the northern side, they are labeled in Hangul at the top and Chinese at the bottom. It further extends inside the Joint Security Area itself. The MDL is more clearly defined by a series of white stakes that stand at approximately 1 meter in height and are spaced at 10-meter interval. Now, this further extends on the conference row, bisecting each building with a 17 by 5-inch concrete slab. On your trip north today, this is the area you will be visiting. Notice how the MDL winds Notice how the MDL winds its way through the middle of the DMZ, forming a finger in the Joint Security Area. Upon arriving here, you will be surrounded on 3 sides by communist North Korea. Now, you will begin your tour here at Camp Boniface and exit onto MSR, a main supply route. This is also known as Old Highway 1. For over 50 years, this was the only stretch of highway connecting North to South Korea until the decision was made to open up the east and west transportation corridors. Now, this is still the only road that leads to the Joint Security Area for all armistice-related events. Now, as we travel north today, I will point out Guard Post 240, Observation Post Olet, the village of Taesong-dong, or Freedom Village, Gijeon-dong, or Propaganda Village, the Swiss and Swedish Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission, or NNSC camp, and the former Czech and Polish NNSC. I'll now highlight in a few more details a few of the areas you will be seeing today. First, the village of Taesong-dong, or Freedom Village. The United Nations Command Security Battalion is responsible for implementing all civil affairs and security of this unique village. We carry out our responsibilities through a security company that guards the village 24 hours a day. Now during the day they provide security while the farmers work in the fields, and at night they guard the village itself while the residents sleep. Now the residents all own modern homes and farm around their large allocations of farmland. However, they do live under some very severe restrictions. They must be inside the village by nightfall and inside their homes with the doors and windows secured by midnight. Now 1,800 meters from Tay Song Dong across the MDL is the village of Gijong Dong, or propaganda village. Now they obtained this name through an extremely large speaker system located throughout the area that until June of 2004 broadcasted propaganda 6 to 12 hours a day. It could be heard here at Camp Boniface, but mostly at night. This propaganda idolized Kim Jong-il to be a great leader and invited the residents of Tay Song Dong, as well as the rest of the republic, to defect to this so-called village of paradise. However, if one were to defect here, they would find themselves rather lonely, for this village is mostly uninhabited. Now, we do see people here from time to time who work at the Kaesong Industrial Complex, maintain the upkeep of these buildings, and raise and lower this extremely large North Korean flag. It is one of the largest flags in the world and has an approximate length of 31 meters. Now, this is the second of 2 flagpoles to ever stand in the village of Gijong Dong. In 1981, the Republic of Korea donated a flag and flagpole to the village of Tay Song Dong that just so happened to stand taller than the flagpole in Gijong Dong. And so North Korea quickly responded by building an even taller flagpole. Today, the flagpole in Tay Song Dong stands at 100 meters in height, while the flagpole in Gijong Dong stands at 160 meters in height. As you enter into the Joint Security Area, I'll point out the road that leads to the Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission, or NNSC camp. Now, delegates from Switzerland, Sweden, Czechoslovakia, and Poland formed the original NNSC. The commission was charged with the investigation of all armistice violations occurring outside of the DMZ. Now, currently, we work with three delegations: the Swiss and Swedes who stay here year-round, and the Polish who come for biannual meetings. Visible from Checkpoint 3, you will be able to see the former Czech and Polish NNSC camp, as seen here on the right. On the left is North Korea's People's Peace Museum. Now, this museum was constructed in less than 48 hours solely for the purpose of the signing of the armistice. Also visible from Checkpoint 3 is the Bridge of No Return. Now, it obtained its name near the end of the Korean War when Operation Big Switch and Operation Little Switch were conducted. The United Nations Command returned over 80,000 prisoners of war, while North Korea and China returned approximately 13,000. These prisoners were lined up on either side of the bridge and were given the opportunity to cross into the country of their choice. However, once they crossed, they could never return, hence the name. The Bridge of No Return lies on the southern boundary of the DMZ, of the Joint Security Area. All the blue buildings you see belong to the United Nations Command, or UNC, while all the red belongs to North Korea, or the KPA. Now, prior to 1976, the Joint Security Area was considered a neutral location, and both guard forces were allowed to cross the border freely in this area. North Korea took full advantage of this by building 4 communist guard posts on the southern boundary road, while the UNC built none in the north. Note the location of Checkpoint 4, and how it's surrounded on 3 sides by communist guard posts and isolated from the rest of the JSA. Soldiers at Checkpoint 3 had limited visibility of soldiers at Checkpoint 4 due to an extremely large yellow poplar tree which once grew in the area. So on August 18, 1976, the UNC dispatched a 5-man civilian work detail, accompanied by a 12-man security force, to conduct a routine tree trimming operation to improve visibility between the 2 checkpoints. Upon arrival, they were met by 28 North Korean guards. Now, work did begin as scheduled. However, after 15 minutes, the North Korean guards attacked. The ensuing fight lasted only 4 minutes. However, during that time, JSA Company Commander Captain Arthur Boniface and 1st Platoon Leader 1st Lieutenant Mark Barrett were brutally axed to death. Now, to give you a better understanding of how outnumbered they were on this day, I will now point out 3 JSA soldiers visible in this photograph. The first is rather hard to make out, but he can be seen here fighting off 7 North Korean guards. Here you can clearly see the helmet of Captain Boniface, who was killed in front of his own vehicle. And here you can see a North Korean soldier wielding an axe at a JSA soldier. Now, due to this unprovoked act of violence, a special series of meetings was held, and it was decided that the actual MDL should separate the 2 guard forces in this area. Now, under this new agreement, no other acts of violence occurred until November 23, 1984, when a Soviet citizen on a North Korean-sponsored tour dashed across the MDL in an attempt to defect to the free world. The North Koreans armed with pistols and rifles followed him in an attempt to kill or capture him. Now, there were approximately 30 North Korean soldiers in the northern portion of the sunken garden. The JSA quick reaction pursuing firefight lasted approximately 20 minutes. And in that time, the KPA had 3 soldiers killed and 5 soldiers wounded, while the UNC had 1 soldier killed, Corporal Jang, and 1 soldier wounded. The Soviet citizen was protected throughout the firefight and was evacuated back to Camp Boniface. On your trip north today, you will see KPA guards. Now, these red armbands state that they are military police. Under provisions of the armistice, all armed personnel inside the DMZ must wear these armbands. However, the KPA no longer do so. Now, they may come down to see your tour today, and we ask you please not communicate with them in any way, verbally or non-verbally. Now, we provide security and assistance for humanitarian operations, such as the repatriation of remains from the Korean War and the delivery of humanitarian aid to the north. Now, we also provide security and assistance for visiting dignitaries and heads of states, such as the former President of the United States, George W. Bush, the President of the Republic of Korea, Im Moon-pak, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, John Key, and the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, and the former Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, who could all be seen here visiting the Panmunjom. Now, like these visiting dignitaries, you will be guarded by soldiers of this battalion. The soldier on the right is United States Army infantry soldier. He served 12 months here. The soldier on the left is a Republic of Korea or ROK soldier. They served 24 months here. Now, both soldiers must meet above average aptitude standards of a normal soldier, as well as possess a clean civilian and military background. Now, it is due to all this, the fact that we are the most forwardly deployed unit on the Korean Peninsula, and that we stand face to face with our enemies on a daily basis, that the United Nations Command, the Republic of Korea, and the United States Army has given us our motto, which we so proudly state. Ladies and gentlemen, we truly are in front of them all. Thank you. Communicate gesture towards North Korea in any way. Now, at the base of KPA Tower 2, you will see the white stakes that stand at approximately 1 meter in height and are spaced at 10-meter intervals. Now, these do denote the MDO within the joint security area itself. Now, further welcome to checkpoint 3. Now, if you remember in your slide brief, I told you that upon arriving here, you would be surrounded on 3 sides by communist North Korea. I will now try to better explain this. Now, if you look directly to your right, about 50 meters, you will see a black and yellow panel marker. Now, these are the only things outside of the joint security area that denote the border from coast to coast. Now, you'll also see these white stakes that stand at approximately 1 meter in height and are spaced at 10-meter intervals. Now, once again, these do denote the MDL within the joint security area itself. Now, the MDL follows these white stakes. They go through the trees. At about 200 meters out where the trees end, the MDL makes a 90-degree angle, bisects the...
It's gonna be alright, it's gonna be okay, yeah. 이제 나의 길을 뚫고 가리. It's gonna be alright.